Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNurseNeed on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. And that sound effect you hear is coming from one Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be back online. Sorry for the craziness last week. It sounds like we've got our sounds in order, but as usual... No! Sleep! To Brooklyn!
That was something I should have accounted for earlier, but hopefully that didn't pop anybody's speakers.
Oh, I'm coming.
It's all good because I got it on the fly, so we are way smoother than we was doing last week. So
loud and clear. Holy cow!
Yeah, you know, a little bit of plate juggling, but it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And folks, not with us here tonight is #1PCN_dirt. Actually, let me just go back to there we go. 1PCN_dirt on Twitter. Also, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and on the old umbrella sites therein. And also not with. Okay, I do not need to be looking at that. Not with us tonight is the Osiris of this ish one, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account, The Click Nation and theclicknation.com, and also Comic Book Resources where he's over there. Comic Book Resources where he's over there writing his face off.
He really is writing his face off.
He is, especially lately. Starting with Avengers number 32. 32. So yes, you can find this here podcast on CSPN Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You could also find this here podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, that whether that be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And folks, we are going to get in this here show tonight, starting off with the comic books as we tend to do every week, and we're starting off with Avengers number 32, which I don't know, you could pretty much see right from the first couple of pages what's this issue is going to be about.
You can kind of see it on the cover. Let's not kid around. Literally, it's the bad guys get together and team up, and we find out how they're all able to get together and why they're all able to get together, because a certain entity, let's say, has been in the background this entire time.
Right, which we've said it before, and we have said his name plenty of times. The way we could have called him up like Candyman at this point. But
and it's funny that all of the things that have come up in the recent past about how this entity would be able to do such things pretty much gets addressed.
Right. In fact, I want to say, wait, didn't Ghost Rider came out this week also, but I didn't get a chance to read it if I'm not mistaken. And
right, I'm behind on that too, so I'm not 100% sure what's happening when. Right,
exactly. And that's the other thing, because we know he gets into the fight with somebody, and I think some of it might be getting addressed there as well. But that part I am honestly not sure of. And I think okay, sorry, I'm just checking the stream there real quick. But yeah, so we basically get, hey, this is, all that stuff we've been asking about, or as far as he's concerned, that kind of gets somewhat addressed.
Right. You essentially catch up with all of the foes that the Avengers have faced over the course of these first 30 or so issues, minus the Avengers 1 million BC issues. That is the crux of this the story.
Right. Yeah. Then the only thing close we get to that is Tony's like, he don't want to talk about it because he and Thor was talking and he's still thinking about it basically, or the things he went through because he's back in the present now as of last issue. We also get Black Widow trying to talk, which she does, talk Blade into staying with the group. Because I don't know why she felt that he needed. Well, I guess that big pack he was carrying and heading out the door was an indication of him trying to leave. But that conversation happens and he decides to stay, but she leaves. So, and then like Angel 70 said, yeah, pretty much the rest of the episode, the rest of the issue is like the coming together, or at least the culmination of them starting to come together of all of the villains, which weirdly enough kind of almost reminds me of Acts of Vengeance, except for it was like a group of higher up villains, spurring on lesser villains to kind of go after folks that they hadn't messed with before.
Right.
Like this is just like, hey, everybody that the Avengers have kind of run into, in this volume, they're basically going to come together and start some mess. So,
pretty much.
Yeah, but that was pretty much what I'm saying. I'm trying to remember if I had anything else in my notes on that. I don't think I did. Oh yeah, there was, like I said, and just like I was saying, the cover aside, you can definitely, tell, like, Namor is in this bar in some undescript section of Atlantis, and then the barkeep just so happens to give him lip and says, hey, you should be able to do this. And then from that scene right there, you pretty much tells you, okay, well, you see where this is going already.
Of course.
And just kind of keeps going from there.
Although I think the predictable part of the issue, or the predictable parts of the issue, were the first 20 or so pages, and I think the very last page, the cliffhanger page, was very unpredictable.
You are absolutely correct. Yes, because no one expected that. Like there was nothing in the issue that would tell you that was going to happen. Nothing
at all.
So, which I'm like, and then which also gives you think is like, wait a minute, because. And then you think about it, was like, well, Jason Aaron did have a hand in the event that that entity and the person that they that are trying to talk him up. Jason Aaron was the one that wrote that, so it kind of makes sense he's bringing that toys back in the thing. But I also think it was like, wait, didn't that entity, something got dealt with that entity to where it wasn't going to come back anytime soon?
Right. I'm not even going to spoil it because it's just too hard to discuss.
Right.
There's way too much recent continuity surrounding this particular entity that that would take too much explaining and probably too much thinking and trying to remember. And of course, I would be consulting my brand spanking new Marvel Unlimited subscription to see if those books are available on the app.
If we're thinking about the same event, I think those are, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's older than War of the Realms.
Yes. Yes. And also Avengers related and this person, which we're not going to even name, but
Right.
So that's the thing. That's good. That's a new little wrinkle that is, that's come into play, rounding out this issue. And it's like, okay, all right, we'll see what else you got going on with this. But that's pretty much Avengers 32. Like I said, this has just been he's been juggling these plates pretty well. Like you almost get to the point where I was like, okay, you almost forget that this, that, and the other thing is in play. But at the same time, it's like he brings them back. He at least brings one or two back up, or they, I should say, bring them back. Often enough to be like, hey, remember this is still here.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that, he's going on to something else next issue.
Right.
So. We'll see how that works out. I guess going on to the next book, unless you got something else.
No, that's it. I mean, the only other book that we have in common this week is Amazing, I believe.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and hit that?
Sure. So Amazing Spider-Man number 41 is the first issue of a new story arc. And it opens with something that seems familiar that will be familiar to several longtime readers. We're actually going back to Kraven's Last Hunt, when we see the opening splash page. And I'm specifically referring to Spidey versus at least one vermin. In this issue, we've got a whole host of them, which is the result of some experiments that came about around the most recent Kraven storyline.
Right.
And we find that I forget what his real name is. I know that he is in his civilian guys. Peter Parker's. Yes, I can't remember.
Fred.
It's not Dukes.
I want to say Dukes. Dukes is a blob, but yeah, it's Fred something.
Right. So he is in his latest impromptu team up with Spidey. This is something that Spencer has definitely decided to take upon himself to create more stories for Boomerang. This is straight out of the pages of Superior Foes of Spider-Man. So this continuing love affair with Boomerang keeps carrying on. And, we get a little bit of backstory as to why Boomerang has taken something of a more prominent role in the New York villain landscape after the fall of Hydra, and this is essentially the explanation as to why.
Yeah, actually, it's the explanation, because he's been carrying around this big secret that he eventually told Spidey about, but the audience doesn't get to hear about it up until this issue, and now all those cards have been laid to the table as to what he's been hiding and why he's been hiding it from the Kingpin.
Right.
So, and by the way, his last name is Myers.
Myers, okay.
Yeah. Also, this is kind of funny, a little funny aside, that Boomerang calls his fans boomers, which, as folks know, out in the world is supposed to be some sort of derogatory statement as to some older folks. It's supposed to be a diss, I suppose.
It used to be a nickname for lefty quarterbacks, but anyway.
Right. Right. you know that one.
So, the splash cliffhanger page at the end of this book left me a little empty because I did not recognize that character who appears. I don't know if that's someone that you recognized, Roddykat.
No, I did not. And in fact, I meant to. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, because I almost forgot about that. Yeah, so there is a character that appears at the end of the issue, or at least the main story of the issue, I should say. And yeah, I'm not sure who that is either.
Right. I mean, it's a character that apparently appears on the cover of the next issue, so I don't know if I'm supposed to recognize who this is.
Yeah. And I feel like, because, so you think about it, so the thing, without giving it away, Boomerang is hiding is a thing. As a matter of fact, they even said it themselves, is a thing that's a deep cut. And has had, has pretty much come back and forth, and it is an old artifact that has propped up, including in the pages of Spidey a couple of different times. One including Boomerang up until this happened to him. So I'm assuming it is a person, or it is a thing that's coming out of either that, or it's probably somebody out of Doctor Strange's thing, and we just don't not really sure of what it is yet or who it is yet.
Right.
Because the way it's coming about, it seems like, well, this seems more mystical in origin, and that's probably more likely than not. But yeah, I guess we'll find out, or whenever somebody does the article, in the next day or two about, hey, this person is back. As you know, there will be one.
Understood.
So the thing about this issue that kind of tripped me out is like, okay, so we find out about what Boomerang was hiding, and we find out, how he got the knowledge that he got and from whom. And the fact that the person, because of his dealings with the falling out of Hydra and whatnot, thought Boomerang better than he actually is, and entrusted him with this knowledge just on the flip. Not only that, but this person also seemingly got taught by Doctor Strange, speaking of, because he does actually come up in the course of this issue, a spell that ends up giving, the Boomerang the knowledge to find the pieces of this artifact that they're trying to find. And I'm sitting here like, didn't sound like Doctor Strange to just be given to some lowly flower clerk, the keys to a spell like that. Or a spell, granted, it seems a benign spell, but still. It's like, I don't know, that seems kind of weird to me. But nevertheless, it is happening, it happens.
All right.
The last thing is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you were going to talk about that, whatchamacallit, the
backstory.
the extra story?
Not the backstory, but yeah.
The backup story, yeah.
Backup story, thank you. I always keep doing that. I should stop that. So basically there is, some shenanigans going on in Project Pegasus. We see some old folks such as, Whirlwind, Grey Gargoyle, and a couple of other folks, one of which who is the ringleader of this, and they are causing havoc. But now they're back in the world. The Lethal Lethan is back, basically. So,
right.
I don't know. And so I was like, okay. I don't know how you felt about it, but it was like, okay, sure. What's one more set of folks?
Right. I mean, it's not something I expected to see in the pages of Spidey.
That is true.
I mean, I give Spencer a little credit for that. Like, oh, okay, it's not the deepest cut in the world, but it's not something I expected to see in the pages of Spidey. Avengers, maybe.
Right.
That seems like more of a classic place to see this particular group of characters, especially Nefaria.
Right.
So, yeah, and even Whirlwind, because I know Whirlwind had a thing against Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, if I'm not mistaken.
And I believe still does up until,
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so, and I know Nefaria has shown up in the pages of, speaking of Avengers of the Wasteland, but that was the last issue, and obviously that is farther in the future, so that is irrelevant to this.
Right.
But the fact that it's like, okay, Nefaria just happens to show up just out of the blue, and here he is again with his crew in the present day. Actually kind of made me want to look up. It's like, wait, what? Like, why are they even doing that? But I guess we'll find out sometime soon.
Mm-hmm.
That being the case, we shall move on to, well, what you got?
I'll tell you. I will talk about Thor number 4.
I still need to catch up with that.
So, without spoiling too much, I think. Did you read the first issue?
I've read none of it. I'm sorry, but
wait. When you say none of it, you mean
none of the first. No, not the first 3 issues, 4 issues.
Right. None of the Kate's run. Right, exactly. Right. We're not that far in. So, right. None of the Kate's run. So. But I'm sure you from the news articles and maybe even the solicitations, you understand that what the premise of the story is that Thor is having, has had to become basically another herald of Galactus.
Yes.
Because of some things going on. And, over the course of the last 2 issues, we've had Thor take on some of his closest brethren from Asgard and from worlds far away, but essentially still brethren, and that's a big hint as to who appeared in the last issue and who is in this issue. We get a little bit of closure between these characters, between these Asgardian characters, and Galactus basically sticks his head in and says, "Hey, enough with your squabbling. I still got, my issues to deal with." And so Thor ends up having to deal with that. And it's all terribly dramatic. It's lots of great cosmic space drama. And I'm definitely dancing through the raindrops here to avoid spoiling it because I think it's worth catching up on for Roddykat. And it's only 4 issues in, so it's still a prime time to catch up without having to dive too deep and devote too much time to it. So for those of you who still have not yet picked up Kate's new run on Thor, I do recommend it. It definitely has a darker tone to Aaron's run, and that's saying something. So I give some credit to Nick Klein, who's on art. his art is not as clean as I prefer. Let's put it that way. It's not as clean as I prefer, but it is growing on me. And I think that his work on this, along with Matt Wilson, who has been consistent on Thor doing color art, is really starting to mesh well together. So it's definitely something worth catching up on, and it's a potential click of the week for me.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, like I said, eventually I'm definitely gonna. I at least very much want to catch up on the first arc of it to see what's going on in this with him, because coming out of, granted, it's a Jason Aaron's run, and whatever. I kind of wanted to at least see what someone else was gonna do with this, and Kate's has been on a fairly decent run lately, so I was kind of curious of that. So cool. For myself, I will wait. What else do you go? Wait. I forgot. Dirt put in some stuff, but we haven't touched on anything that he's read until now. Actually,
Yep.
So, huh?
Do you have something in common with his list?
Yes, actually, looks like I got a couple now that I think about it.
All right, go ahead.
So Ant-Man number 3, and I'll just go ahead and get his notes out of the way, and says that Ant-Man gets a team up, and he's actually not the weak link nor the biggest loser. That's actually not entirely true.
TV references. Dirt was into it today.
Yeah, no, right? Amazing. Plus, looks like Scott might be able to get a side chick in the future. Yeah,
did he really say that?
He did say that, yes. And actually, there's potentially true, but knowing this person, I doubt there's anything that serious, because of the cover, that Black Cat and Spider-Man show up in the course of this issue, and Spidey's being Spidey, and he's being slightly, I want to say, protective of his ex, but not necessarily, because she's not necessarily flirting with Scott, but she's kind of like just talking to him like, oh yeah, cool, and then laughing at his jokes and that kind of stuff. And Spidey's like, wait a minute. But everybody else that they've run through, that Scott and Cassie, who's also in there, have been running across this whole issue, has been pretty much treating him like not necessarily dirt, but just oh yeah, I don't even know why he's even around. So so after his run-ins with, the other insect folks, he ends up going to the Avengers, and he also has to convince Cassie that to not go to the West Coast, and that he's still a big deal in the superhero community, and that's why he's trying to make himself look good in front of the Avengers and everybody. And while they're at the Avengers, there's a couple of barbs kind of slipped in, that. Basically, this whole time, Cassie just kind of hears them talk, how the way they talk about her dad, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So, but while they're at the Avengers, they get an upgrade on their helmets, and then, something happens to where they have to basically talk to Black Cat, because there was a person, speaking of deep cuts, or slightly deep cuts, someone that she worked with back from World War Hulk days, back in Heroes for Hire days, is kind of a person of interest to Scott, because of his dealings with this other person he's dealing with now. So they go off and kind of find them, who hasn't been seen, like I said, since World War Hulk, and not necessarily alive from the way they were sounding like, and it sounds like that is the case here. But then they get into some mishaps with one of the big bad guys' henchmen, and Cassie ends up saving Scott's bacon. He kind of was the weak link in this issue, so I'm not sure what entirely Dirt was talking about. He comes off good in a couple of sections, but at the same time, it's like, okay, he ends up getting saved up by his daughter, but he also comes out good, which he didn't think about, in front of Black Cat. So, which much to Spidey's chagrin, that's kind of what, I think Dirt was talking about. And as far as the side chick thing also, but again, this is the Black Cat. You can't imagine it's all that serious. That's all I'll say about that. But, they do their business there, and then Spidey and Black Cat leave, and then, we cut to a scene where the bad guys kind of found something that they were looking for, which shouldn't be a surprise. Like I said in my notes, if you've read the last issue, because they kind of made it kind of come out as like, hey, you can do this and do that. And you did this thing. So we need, so you know, basically they were kind of hinting where they needed to find out how they could do that. And sure enough, they found it. So, they basically found Scott's home base and what he's been hiding in said home base, to which is going to come up next issue. That is it for Ant-Man number 3. And I guess, I can go ahead and get to this other one real quick. And then, unless you, well, no, yeah, I know you got at least a couple more. So do another one and then we get to rapid fire.
I was about to say, we can get to rapid fire, relatively quickly. Just cover that other book that you did with Dirt.
Okay. Yeah, I can do this one kind of quickly. Star Wars Bounty Hunter number 1. And I will get to Dirt's, Don't Side Away first, which I slightly kind of agree with. What a confusing mess. I had to flip back and forth, like 4 times to keep this story straight. True. What a terribly poor cash in on The Mandalorian. I'm not sure about that part, but, I think I hate it more because of how good The Mandalorian is. And I can kind of see most of that. Like, so, going into this, you almost felt like, okay, Star Wars Bounty Hunters. So me thinking, I was like, okay, hey, you remember that part in Empire Strikes Back when Vader was like, hey, he hired a bunch of bounty hunters to look behind him? Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking going into this. This is not that. And as what he said about a confusing mess, he's pretty much right. And I had to pretty much do the same thing because it's like, something happens here, but it just looks, the art just kind of rough in enough spaces to where it kind of makes you have to flip back and forth. It's like,
who wrote this?
Oh shit. Oh shoot. Hang up a second.
Star Wars. I mean, I'll look it up too while we're. So it's Sachs, Ethan Sachs. Yeah, Ethan Sachs.
Yeah. Okay. But but the art is Paolo something or other.
Paolo Vianelli.
Right. Which weirdly enough, it stands out because the art is rough as it is. So, but yeah, so basically
you know what I was going to say? Just hold on to the thought. It doesn't look that rough, but I think the colors don't do it any justice.
Keep flipping through, but yeah, I mean, I can see that also.
Worse? It gets worse?
Well, like I said, I think what you're saying probably kind of does hold true, but at the same time, no, the art's kind of rough in spots.
Yeah, I see it now. Yeah. It starts out okay.
Yeah. Like, because it's almost like a style, like, I don't want to say like Arrows, because it's not necessarily the manga type style, but it's kind of like almost sketchbook type style that he's going for. And I could almost see it, but like I said, once you start getting into the issue, it's like, well, what is going on here? Mm-hmm. So, and that kind of takes away from it.
Yeah, the layouts are a little hard to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, but like I said, basically, there's a botched mission that seems like it has something to do with that is, so there are references, if not named, then other things from Solo. As a matter of fact, I have it in my notes. Solo, the movie, Han Solo, Imperial Cadet, because one of the characters is pretty much comes out of that. But the same character comes out of the Star Wars extended universe. So they basically he's been back in the fold for a minute. Star Wars target Vader and Dr. Aphra, because Dr. Aphra and a certain Wookiee she hangs out with shows up in this issue for a minute. But basically what happens is a bunch of bounty hunters some of whom was on this mission that got botched back on Corellia back in the day, and someone messed it up for them. That person went into hiding, but years later, this person seemingly looks like they're coming out of hiding, and there's a bounty put on their heads. A bunch of bounty hunters, some of which who are intimately, known to this person or worked with that person during that time, are pretty much taking up the bounties. But obviously, as bounty hunters do, they don't like each other all that much anyway. So this is basically them kind of, everybody's getting the puck. If you use the Mandalorian parlance, everybody getting the poke, and they're.
I was about to say, is this a hockey reference? Okay.
No. Yeah, they basically called the little disc or whatever that the boundaries are on pucks, which I thought that too. I was like, why would they even do that? But yeah, because it does look like a puck. So, But that's pretty much the gist of it. And it's like everything I was hoping for, like I said, being that part from Empire was just dashed. I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. And this EU character who's shown up in past many events, a couple of which, now that I think, I have not finished reading, because I think Star Wars Han Solo Imperial Cadet I've read, but I didn't finish. So I remember seeing this character before he got his upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably ends up getting his upgrade somewhere in there. I just didn't finish it. And then Target Vader, which I think he shows up there because he's a part of that group also. And like I said, and Dr. F is a whole nother sad thing. So it's, art aside, this could have been something neat. I would have been preferable personally if they had, say, shown what happened to the bounty hunters that Vader, which granted some of them are, but it would have been better if they shown what happened when those bounty hunters were going after Han and them. Maybe that'll come out somewhere else, or maybe that, especially we're in the time of we're after Empire Strikes Back, and that kind of is in the middle of it. So
I was about to say, like, we're definitely right after Empire.
Right. So we may or may not get that part of it, and it may not be relevant to the folks, the powers that be, that is relevant. I don't know. So yeah, Star Wars, I will probably keep up for another issue or two, but that art is distracting enough to be like, I don't know if I want to waste the time on it. And that's coming from me, I have read some rough stuff in the name of Star Wars. So
okay.
Yep. Oh, and while I'm writing that in, what you got going on?
All right, so I don't think you read this issue of Immortal Hulk, did you?
Oh shoot, no, I did not.
Oh, I will not spoil too much. Immortal Hulk number 32. You did read the previous issue, correct?
Oh yeah.
You know that Zemnu the Titan, the original Hulk at Marvel, has been brought on by Dario Agger, the Minotaur, the head of Roxxon, to go at Bruce Banner in a less direct fashion, and that attack is going full speed ahead in this issue, and the effects of it are felt immediately and throughout the issue. So that's pretty much it. It's very well done. It's very much it very much plays out a little like a psychological thriller. For something like this, it makes sense because of the indirect attack. More the psychic attack taking place. So it definitely plays out much more like that type of story would than a more traditional, Rock'em Sock'em, Hulk smash type story. So that's what you get here. I definitely recommend it. It was a close, not quite pick of the week just yet.
Cool. Yeah. Usually Immortal Hulk is kind of like one of, just probably like one of the ones I usually try to get to when I know it's out. But this week was there was so much out this week also. And I kind of wanted to blaze through some stuff.
Sure.
To kind of get to that before I dig into that one, but I just totally blanked on it. So
all right.
Now I guess we can get into rapid fire.
Yeah, I'll spin it up.
Apparently none of us has, this is, despite all that came out this week, all of us looks like we didn't hit that many books or get a chance to hit that many books.
I was about to say, it's been a hectic week. There's probably a couple of stories in the news that you haven't been able to put in there because they literally just dropped today. So we'll just get through our books and we'll get through our clicks. So I'll take the rest of Dirt's books.
Okay.
So Dollar Comics Batman number 428. No joke. This is the first issue of Batman he bought off the stands in middle school. They killed Robin? What the what? Needless to say, it led to today. Superman number 21. So terrible. Moving at such a snail's pace. You can skip this and miss almost nothing. Flash number 751. So this new villain, Paradox, is an old villain that hasn't been revealed to us yet. But Iris knows, and just as things look hopeless, they get worse. Spider-Ham number 4 of 5. Oh my goodness. I think PCN_Dirt was feeling himself today. Kang! I get a witness!
Yeah.
If you thought bringing together all the Kangs from time and the multiverse was bad, just wait until you see who is actually pulling the strings. All I will say is that he had plenty of bad mojo. And that's PCN_Dirt's books. Let me take care of my last few books. Actually, it's just my last book, X-Men number 8. This is actually a potential click of the week. We are back in space with the X-Men doing some of the really fun stuff that the X-Men have been famous for, the X-books have been famous for, especially during Claremont's long extended runs. We do have the Extra Summers brother, that's not Gambit, show up in this issue. That is Vulcan, and we have lots of callbacks to several stories, including War of Kings. The Brood show up in this, and so we get a cameo appearance by Brew, who has not disappeared, is in fact welcome on Krakoa. And that's one of Jason Aaron's characters. If I'm not mistaken, that's one of his creations during his run on X-Men, and I think Hickman has taken a liking to him in this issue as well. So this is definitely a fun issue. It's a different speed than the previous issue, but it's a potential click of the week for me because it was full of setup and full of fun.
Cool. Hey, and they gave me just enough time to finish what I was typing. Yeah, I didn't get to read this X-Men because I didn't read the last issue either.
Oh, the last issue is the crazy one.
I know, and I was like, oh, dang it, I knew I forgot something, and sure enough, that was what it was. And
I was about to say, you could read this without having read that.
Oh, okay.
But, obviously, last issue, number 7, is, I think, the more important issue.
Right. Yeah, and also New Mutants came out this week, and I forgot that because they're back to the OG crew, if I'm not mistaken. But
I'm behind on that. I need to catch up.
Yeah, because I didn't read that last issue of that one either, and that's what they went to. Apparently, Magma shows up in the last one, I guess, if the cover is any indication, but that's a whole nother story. So now I will go ahead and finish off the rest of mine with... Oh, wait, Brew is also... that's what I'm going to say, because Brew is definitely... If he wasn't Aaron's creation, he's definitely uses them because he shows up in Avengers quite a bit.
Right.
In fact, has shown up in not only in Avengers but Black Panther and the Agents of Wakanda.
He's a member, isn't he?
Right. So Brew is definitely, and I think now that I think about it, like Brew is apparently a fan favorite because I remember seeing something in Letters page asking whether Brew was going to end up going to Krakoa, and now here you go, that's been answered. So cool. For myself, Star Wars Darth Vader number 2, and I'm just going to go ahead and read directly from my notes and says that on an aside, despite being brought up elsewhere, I also still question why Vader didn't realize that Leia was his daughter. There is an article in the clickbait section that I am referencing from CBR that kind of goes into that, but even that article kind of is like, I feel like is missing some things, but that's just me. Anyway, calm down, folks. It's not her, but someone close to her. If you think about the events of Phantom Menace, I don't know if you plan on reading this because I'm thinking you said you were kind of interested.
Right. At some point.
Yeah. But so if you think about the events of Phantom Menace, the person that you were led to believe, that is not, but is someone close to her. But, and it makes sense, which this, and also says, this is a twist I wasn't expecting. as far as one part, because there is seemingly a team up between these two folks, because they have I would say they have a shared goal, but not really, because one's trying to figure out one thing for one other reason. Vader's trying to figure out who held Luke away from him all this time, and this other person's trying to get vengeance. So there is an unlikely team up going on there for two different reasons. But there you go. And it was and the reason why I said it was unexpected, because even with what was said in the issue, you would not think that team up should have happened given what was even said. So that's a whole nother situation. Anyway, next up, Transformers number 18. For some strange reason, there was robot sweat in this issue. I don't know why that was the thing that impressed upon me the first time, and that was like a couple of pages in. But basically, this issue is centered around RC, whom some folks would know as probably the lone female or not even Autobot, but the Transformer for many a year. But there's been more since that's been brought into canon. But she is basically dealing with potentially leaving Cybertron amidst all of the troubles that's going on, with the other things that's going on, like murder investigation and everything else. Being a mentor to another young bot who just been cast. I guess I don't know what's the word they use, or formed, or whatever. I forgot what the word they use for it. And this big tether that just fell. That's causing some havoc and causing riots and looting and stuff, which causes something to happen to RC's young ward and causes her to get very pissed and causes her to do some actions to deal with all of that. So it was a pretty decent issue, I'd say. Adventures of the Wasteland, number 3. So Doom is going around taking out all of his old allies so this is being set in the Old Man Logan Old Man Logan timeline, which I assume is the actual future. I'm still never clear about that. But meanwhile, Thor, Danny Cage, and company become more of a team as they're trying to bond a little bit. This new Captain America seems to be going the U.S. agent route. If you know the U.S. agent and my dislike of him, you kind of know what that means in his demeanor, I should say. Vision gets revived because they happened upon her last issue, so now she's a part of the team, and apparently gives this new Captain America's old shield, or actual shield. Because the shield that he has, because of his origin story, he was basically one of Latveria's soldiers, and who was dressed up to be like Captain America. So that shield was made in Latveria, and this is the actual Cap shield. So now he has that. What he's going to do with it? And apparently, that's something that came out of Old Man Quill, because apparently it looks like there was a footnote addressed that, hey, there was a whole bunch of stuff that Doom had on him that some people took, including the shield. So there is that. And the team ends up riding into a trap. And that's where we leave off this issue, including one big head floating thing that is known by an acronym. Last but not least, Hawkeye Free Fall, which I was just actually finished reading or going through before we started. So after the events of last issue, apparently Hawkeye's secret is still safe, because he runs up on Daredevil at the end of last issue, whom apparently did not know, for obvious reasons, that he's Ronin, because he can't see, and Hawkeye had the Ronin armor on at the time, and Clint possibly starts to know that Clint's still pretty dumb. So he was like, wait, can he not see me? And then starts waving his hand and doing all kinds of stuff, but still hadn't figured out the fact that, Daredevil's blind. Nevertheless, Daredevil tells Clint about everybody else that Clint's run across so far, basically are trying to hunt down the Ronin, and they're meeting to trying to do that. And Clint kind of joins up like he was wanted to be involved, but also uses it as a moment to strike the Hood as strike in the name of Ronin, but since he was with those other folks, he couldn't really do it like he really wanted to. But he kind of runs afoul of some trouble and, gets himself hurt. And then there's a whole bunch of people that other shows up after that, because like I said, I only got to a certain point. Apparently, Mockingbird and the aforementioned U.S. agent also show up. Oh, wait, and I forgot D-Man.
Okay.
D-Man also shows up. So yeah, that's a weird thing. But yeah, like I said, I didn't get a chance to finish the rest of the issue, but knowing that D-Man shows up and U.S. Agent all in the same issue, and mind you, this is Matthew Rosenberg writing this book, so I guess some of that kind of comes to figure because he loves pulling out stuff like that. So yeah, that is that for me. And now we got clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week.
And for Dirt and Tim, we have their clicks of the week. This should not be surprised as Dirt's as it is Spider-Ham number 4. And he says another week where it's so close between books. And for Tim is Hawkeye Freefall number 4, which I don't think he said anything else about except for that. Yep, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Do you have yours?
No.
All right, so I will give my click of the week, and it is Thor number 4. Lots of fun, high space drama. But believe me, X-Men number 8 was actually pretty close behind because it also has high space drama.
Right. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you about that. So are they in, please tell me that part. Where are they? Are they in share space or?
They start out on Earth.
Okay.
But they end up in a part of Shi'ar space that is a border territory.
Okay, because I know at the end of New Mutants a couple of issues ago, they ended up getting a piece of a moon. Actually, I think they ended up getting a moon in Shi'ar space because the New Mutants helped them out. So I was wondering,
what I was going to say is there is, I think, an interconnectivity between the Mutant story and this issue of X-Men, which makes me want to go back over the weekend and catch up with New Mutants to see what I've missed, because I think they are interconnected.
Yeah, because I was like, I knew they're going to, there's no way in the world that wasn't going to come up anytime soon. So, and this seems right for that. Wait, I'm sorry. What did you say again? What was yours?
Thor number 4.
Okay, there we go. I had to find it in the list. And for myself, I will go with, I don't know. It's kind of a weird one. Because there's a couple of them I didn't even get a chance to get to. So, I guess I will go with Transformers number 18.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, it was that Transformers book is actually solid, despite a couple of things not being known, but we're starting to get a sense of what's going on. Or, well, the sense of what's going to be going on, I should say. So, but yeah, digging it. And like I said, hopefully I will get around to some of these other books that I'd missed from this week. And with that, we will go on to the news section, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron. Blue Apron's meal delivery service if you're shut in because of coronavirus. Blue Apron has fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us, that's cspn.us, then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
Yes. And we start off with the cinematic. Oh, this is going swimmingly. Yay. This with the cinematic news like we always do about this time. I'm going to assume that folks can see it. Yes, they can. Yay. Supergirl's sister takes on a new identity in Alex in Wonderland. So an upcoming episode of Supergirl has Alex Danvers, using Obsidian technology, not the video game publishers, to take on a new persona. So let's see. The CW has released the official synopsis of season 5, 16th episode titled Alex in Wonderland. Alex will enter a virtual reality vision of National City where she takes on a new persona of her own. Meanwhile, Kelly Olsen teams up with William Day as the investigation of Lex Luthor's true motives continues. So, and it is still early enough to where I guess that episode is a couple of weeks out. So it hasn't happened yet. Cool. Next.
All right, DC's Legends of Tomorrow are getting a ride from Supernatural in new photos from Zari, Charlie, Constantine, and Sarah hitch a ride in the Winchester brothers' iconic Impala, affectionately known as Bevy to fans of the long-running series. The car is recognizable not only for its make and model, but also for the license plate and the mystical markings on the inside of the trunk. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about Supernatural. That show's been on way long. Next up, DuckTales, announces season 3 premiere date. So, the third season of Disney's Emmy-nominated DuckTales reboot series will hit screens in 1 month's time, as of the writing of this article, on April 4th, Saturday, April 4th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Says new season rejoins the Duck family as they set off on a globetrotting hunt for the world's greatest lost artifacts. With secret organization from Scrooge's past, the fiendish organization of world larceny, Foul, trying to stop them at any cost. So, unless, because I'm not up on DuckTales, this may be the first mention of Foul bring back in the fold.
Okay.
I believe. I could be wrong because, like I said, not up on the show. But cool. Next.
All right. MCU Disney Plus shows are shot completely different. A completely different way than the movies, says Anthony Mackie, a.k.a. Sam Wilson the Falcon. He's saying not to expect a Marvel Cinematic Universe film cut up into 6 to 8 parts when The Falcon and the Winter Soldier debuts on Disney Plus in August. They're going to feel different in and of themselves because they're shot in a different way than the movies, he told The Hollywood Reporter. He thinks people are going to be surprised by how in-depth and evolved the characters become by having 6 to 8 hours to them instead of just 2 hours.
We will see at the end of this year. Vin Diesel says that apparently Thor Love and Thunder to include some of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So let's see. Vin Diesel says, I am awaiting excited for my friend James Gunn to knock this next one out of the park. Diesel told Comic Book, referring to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He took the Suicide Squad, so he's about to embark on it. Thor will also, the director, talk to me about how Thor will incorporate some of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I know people have been asking about that personally. Diesel added, referring to Love and Thunder, co-writer or director Taika Waititi, that'll be interesting. Nobody knows. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything.
Huh.
Yeah.
I was about to say.
I know, right? Like he didn't know he made that slip. Okay.
Like he's like one of the few people that's probably not that afraid of the Disney snipers.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. So, but we'll see as that goes along. Next up,
Marvel's final Black Widow trailer goes back to the beginning. I did not watch this.
Yeah, neither did I.
So enjoy it, people who love watching every single trailer. Obviously, it's heartening to know that they don't show every scene from the movie in the trailers anymore. They're actually fake scenes in the trailer now. At least if it's a Russo brothers movie. So I have a feeling that they're probably continuing that with all of the Marvel movies. But at the end of the day, I would rather be pleasantly surprised when I watch this movie. Hopefully it doesn't get bumped into next year like some movies that I'll talk about at the end of the news.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping that fight between the two widows stays in there, because that seemed like something they would probably cut for some dumb reason. But anyway. Here's actually, you should have gotten this one, and that's only because, well, actually take it back, because both of us share the same love of this character, and that is Shang-Chi casting info supports film's Mortal Kombat style tournament rumor. So new casting details suggest that Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings will feature a tournament style fight. And at first I saw this and I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel about that part, because I'm like, you invoking the name of Mortal Kombat, which I know not, not fully, but at the same time, like they're basically giving them a game of death type situation to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Or Into the Dragon, more specifically, I guess. So I'm like, I don't know, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. But this is also taken in a grain of salt, because I think this is a rumor from some site. It says that's according to Murphy's Multiverse, who recently reported that the film project put out a casting call for a male director to film a one-scene cameo. The character is simply listed as Kane on the call sheet. Kane will, like Kung Fu, okay, will apparently travel with Shang-Chi and several of the main characters and will live stream them entering a massive fight. So not Kane.
Really? I was about to say, that's a little, it's like a nod, right?
You would think, right? Because like with that name, and then he's traveling with him, like, yeah, okay. So
Weird.
Again, this is still rumor section. So I mean, this is still kind of rumor. But what were you gonna say?
No, that's cool.
Yeah. So but there's some more Shang-Chi news coming up in the comic book section, which yeah. Next up.
All right, so apparently it's been revealed that Black Panther's Winston Duke, aka M'Baku, had more fight scenes filmed for the climactic final battle of Avengers Endgame. I mean, dude, there's a lot of people there.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, I don't know what he was expecting, but
I'm like, you don't have an actual code name. Your code name is very racist, but still.
I mean, you are not wrong. So yeah, like being that character and being kind of a side character, which, it is, like, I don't know what he was expecting to get into, especially like you said, with all the extra people that they had going on in that.
Right. I mean, if you think about it, do you know who we didn't see a lot of during the fight scene, the in battle scene? The Hulk.
That's true. Actually, there's probably
not much.
Right. There's probably a couple of different people, if you think about it, that didn't really get a whole lot of screen time outside of, the couple of parts of it. They just like, hey, here's this big section.
Right. I mean, obviously we saw a lot of Cap, Thor, and Iron Man.
Right.
That was the big deal. So everyone else got like snippets. So
right. Like there wasn't a whole lot of Black Panther in the first, except for when he came in, that kind of stuff, but it wasn't. But like I said,
no, we're talking about the battle scene.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, he had a couple of spots, but he didn't get a whole.
Yeah, I was about to say but he had one extended scene when he was on the run with the gauntlet. He at least had that.
Well, yeah, that is also true. You're right.
That's the one. Like when he picks up the gauntlet from Hawkeye, he has an entire scene where we're following him throughout the battle. So,
true.
he does get that. There's plenty of people that get short shrift in that battle scene. Let's not kid ourselves. So.
Right. So which was the ultimate point there. So it's like, just take a basically get in line, Winston Duke. So, anyway, next up. So this was kind of confusing to me. Well, not really, but the New Mutants director confirms Lockheed is in the movie. So the upcoming New Mutants movie will introduce X-Men's dragon companion Lockheed on the big screen. While the film did not undergo any reshoots, like apparently there was people have been making a big deal of, and supposedly a holdup. This is me editorializing. Director Josh Boone did return to the editing bay to add effects like Lockheed and Magic Soul Sword and armor. Boone confirmed to Entertainment Weekly that Lockheed did appear in the most recent trailer for the movie after being teased in an Easter egg in some of the earliest footage of the film. and he says, you will see a little bit of him there. Boone says, I wouldn't say too much more, but I was pleased with how we had him in the world and had him as a part of Iana's story. Now, I did say it was confusing, which is not, because let's face it, we know Lockheed to be more aligned with Kitty Pryde than Iana, but we also know that there's a background there that was also away from her. So I get it. But it was just weird to me. It was like, wait, how do you have Lockheed in here and not have Kitty Pryde in this thing? That was where my mind first went when I saw this. But again, like I said, I get it. Like I know there was a thing before she came along.
Okay.
Next up.
All right. So according to director Josh Boone, Antonio Banderas was one planned to portray a future foe of the New Mutants who would have first appeared in the upcoming film's post-credit scene. They always plan to have a tag at the end of the movie that introduced the villain for the next movie. He told Entertainment Weekly. They even had an actor cast, but because of the merger and because Marvel owns X-Men now and is going to do their own thing, there was no reason to go shoot it. Too bad, so sad.
Yeah. Which, if you were interested, he was going to play Roberto's dad, Emmanuel DaCosta.
All right.
So, yeah. Next up, Riverdale halts production due to crew member exposed to coronavirus. And I know, folks, there's been a lot of coronavirus news floating about out there. But hey, it's a serious thing. Wash your hands, people. Amongst other things. But yeah, so according to the Hollywood Reporter, Warner Brothers announced their production's suspension in an official statement describing the movie as made out of abundance, the move as made out of abundance of caution, quote unquote. According to the statement, we are working closely with the appropriate authorities and health agencies in Vancouver to identify and contact all individuals who may have had come in direct contact with our team member. So yeah, at the time of the writing, it's unclear how long production will be suspended or how this will impact Riverdale season 4. So, like I said, this is just one of the number of coronavirus related news that will come up.
Right. I literally just put in. I literally just copied and pasted a piece from Tech Radar about as our next and final movie. Our cinematic news bit, coronavirus movie release date delays have cropped up over the past week. And of note for our audience of the Comic Book Chronicles, A Quiet Place Part 2 was going to drop this month in March. It's now to be announced. Mulan, the live-action remake of the Mulan animated movie, was also supposed to be in March and is now to be announced. The New Mutants, speaking of the New Mutants, was supposed to drop in April and is now to be announced. No Time to Die, the last Daniel Craig James Bond movie, was in April, now has been moved to November of 2020. And last and not least, for myself, we're going to be waiting for Justice for Han a little longer. Fast 9. I got an email from Universal Pictures today that Fast 9 was going to drop in May, but has been postponed. It was actually supposed to drop in April, but has now been postponed to April 2021, next year. It's a long time to wait for Justice for Han, man.
Hey, we've been waiting this long, though.
True enough. So this is what we're dealing with, folks. Stay safe. Mm-hmm. As Roddykat said, wash your hands. Try to keep some personal distance between yourself and others.
Yeah, don't go to many places that you don't necessarily need to if you don't have to. I mean, it sounds, kind of reactionary, but nevertheless.
Oh, I don't think at this point it is anymore. What I was going to add, though, is, at least for our listeners and viewers, we're going to have to deal with this as Comic-Con season starts to ramp up.
Right.
And you were going to say?
I was just going to say, I know I got one particular news on one of those fronts, and there's definitely been more news about more cons coming, in the wake of more closings and whatnot.
I was going to just mention last before we move on to comic book news. As a regular attendee of New York Comic Con, orders for tickets for New York Comic Con feel like they're right around the corner. They're probably maybe a month or two away. We'll see how this goes. Obviously, Comic Con is for New York. New York Comic Con is in October. So with any luck, knock on wood, this will have all subsided by then, but we shall see. The situation, as everyone is saying, is fluid. So we will endeavor to stay on top of things for ourselves and our faithful listeners and followers and viewers.
Indeed. And I know a lot of this folks will be definitely aware of, because like I said, there is no shortage of news on things being affected by this out there. So it is a thing we have to deal with. And with that, folks, we will get into the comic book news. Starting off with the Joker gets profiled by a real forensic psychiatrist in Joker Harley Criminal Sanity Special. So in June, DC will publish a companion one-shot to Kami Garcia, Miko Suyan, Mike Mayhew, and Jason Badawer's Joker Harley Criminal Sanity, called Joker Harley Criminal Sanity Secret Files #1 by Garcia, Ed Kurtz, MD, and featuring art by David Mack, Jason Badawer, and more. It hits shelves June 6th, cover art by David Mack. And basically in Criminal Sanity, Harley Quinn is hunting two serial killers. The Joker, a brutal psychopath who murdered her roommate and disappeared years ago, and the killer currently terrorizing Gotham City, reads DC's description. So, yeah, I guess this is just an addition to that. And apparently this, she says that I had worked on an X-File book, and my friend Dr. Ed Kurtz was one of my consultants, explained Garcia in an announcement. He's a real forensic psychiatrist profiler. Harley Quinn basically has a similar job. Dr. Kurtz works in a facility for the criminally insane. I wanted to play with the idea of Harley having that training and working as a behavioral analyst and profiler. Okay. So that's where that comes from. I will also go ahead and say right here, and I think I've told Agent 70 this real quick. There is a wonderful podcast called The Arkham Session that basically was Dr. Andrea Letamendi and Brian Ward basically reviewing and running through Batman the Animated Series from a psychological standpoint. It's a really good podcast. If you hadn't checked it out, you should. They have since gone on to like Doom Patrol and other stuff, and they've also done, I think they've actually done Joker the movie. So, but you should definitely check it out because it's a great podcast. Anyway, next up.
All right. So Jeff Johns' Jason Fabok's tease, DC's Three Jokers comic in exclusive interview. This is a long-awaited story. I mean, I remember talking to Jason Fabok about this, and he was like in the middle of working on it at Terrificon 2 years ago, and it still hasn't come out yet. So in December, actually, wait, hold on. EW can reveal the covers for the three issue Three Jokers miniseries written by Johns and illustrated by Jason Fabok, set to hit stores this summer. All right. That's cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, because I feel like that was something like they touched upon it. Like, I don't know, probably was it before Dark Knight's Metal or during Dark Knight's Metal?
Yeah, at least 2 years ago.
Right. So, and it feels like they dragged it because I don't remember y'all talking about it ever since then.
Right. They definitely have dragged their feet on this, but I think I don't know. It's definitely it probably has something to do with just what's been going on with DC lately. So, and maybe Fabok's art. So we'll see. Sure.
Next up, hey, do you ever wonder what would have happened if Jason Todd had lived?
No. I mean, he is alive.
Well, yeah, he is now, but I mean initially. So because if folks did not know, there was a poll that fans did back in the day. They basically did a, hey, will he live, will he die type situation, and they let the fans decide on whether he lived or die, and he ended up dying. But apparently DC still has pages from what would have happened if he did not die. So, and that's where this article kind of comes in. And this is a story from Polygon, and they basically, they were showing some of the pages from, said potential issue. So, like we basically see the stuff that, hey, we saw, when it happened, but then it goes into, well, hey, he lived and this and that and the other and da 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 da. So if you are one of the very few who actually was concerned about what would have happened had he lived at the time, there you go. You can read that article.
Okay.
Next up.
Doom Patrol Weight of the World's finale has been postponed 10 weeks. The finale to the second volume of Gerard Way's Doom Patrol has been postponed once again, now aiming for an April 8th release date, originally solicited back in October 29 for January 29th. It's now been rescheduled on 4 occasions. Not exactly Doomsday Clock, though.
I was going to actually mention that, so I'm glad you did.
Not exactly.
Yes. And not on 2 occasions like the song from back in the day. But yeah.
Right.
Anyway, Bendis promises Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen finales will impact Superman titles. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, how?
Okay.
Well, partially how, I should say that, because as a person who has been reading both Lois Lane and Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, one of them I can see because so Lois Lane has definitely has interacted with Superman and even John, because there was, I think, want to say issue maybe 4 or 5, like right before Jonathan goes off to Legion of Superheroes.
Right.
They basically have a talk about, about him going. So, excuse me. So, and Superman and Clark have both, shown up in the book. And I want to say they may have, well, I know, because I'm like an issue or 2 behind. So I know there was some talk about him putting out his secret identity before it happened. And I believe some of that might have spilled over after that. So I know there is connective tissue there. Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen is kind of crazy. And it doesn't seem like it's connected to anything, but apparently according to Bendis, it is some kind of way. And according to what he says Bendis took to Twitter in response to Lois Lane number 12 and Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen number 12 being officially given June release dates. He says, I quote, "I promise you the fallout from both of these amazing series will directly affect the status quo of Superman's comics," he wrote.
Okay.
I would like to see how, but okay. Like I said, Lois Lane I can see, because like I said, it seems more in tune than what's going on in Jimmy Olsen, if you haven't read it, which is being written by Matt Fraction. And Lois Lane is being written by Greg Russell, which I also recommend because it's a good book. If you are a fan of Gotham PD, that series, it's kind of along those lines. Anyway, next up.
Alrighty. Next up, writer Tom Taylor has begun to tease a sequel to his highly successful Deceased miniseries. Yay. With artwork depicting a world of post-undead DC heroes. Taylor began teasing the new project a few days ago, and his latest piece of marketing takes a collage of panels from the original DC series, featuring the Justice League, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash, Green Lantern, and Aquaman. Met some truly horrific events in the zombie apocalypse, and they are on display with art from deceased Trevor Hairsine. Okay.
Yeah. There was definitely at the end of the Deceased main book, there was some stuff that they could touch upon, and looks like they are. Some of it doesn't seem likely, like the whole Batman zombie thing, because I'm fairly certain he dealt with himself.
Right.
During early on in that miniseries. But, because of how that virus tended to run, sure, it could happen. Anyway, I will definitely read it, and I'm not really big on zombie stuff, but Tom Taylor is pretty good at what he does, and that series was actually pretty good, including some of the stuff that's come out after that. DC's iconic Sandman series is becoming an audible drama. So for more than 30 years, Sandman has loomed large in the annals of comic book history. I've never read it. As one of the most famous Vertigo series of all time, created by Neil Gaiman alongside artists Sam Keith and Mark Dringenberg, Sandman introduced the dreaming, the metaphysical realm populated by the endless. Y'all know what this is. But basically, the Sandman will hit Audible in the summer of 2020 in English and will be released in French, German, Italian, and Spanish subsequently. So, cool. Next up.
All right. WizKids reveals new Transformers Deep Cuts miniatures. So WizKids in September 2020 is going to release the second wave of their Transformers Deep Cuts miniatures. They're pre-primed, unpainted miniatures featuring different properties. They allow individuals to paint the figures in their own style or attempt to recreate classic looks. The miniatures also feature stickers to help complete the look. The first wave featured Optimus Prime, Megatron, Bumblebee, and Starscream. The second wave features RC, Ironhide, Soundwave, Laserbeak, and Frenzy. The miniatures retail for $4.99. Okay.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of painting miniatures, there you go. If you can find me one that's already painted, I would probably get one. If you're watching the video, you can see the figures as they stand. Like, literally. Next up. Spider-Man PS4 players find Ant-Man Easter egg in game. So apparently, the Easter egg...
Is it time for me to get a PS4 if I'm going to be working from home, as it seems to be more and more likely?
I mean, there's a lot of good games on the PS4. I
would hold out until PS5.
You could. I mean, at this point, see, normally I would say at this point you might as well, but given everything that's going on in China and everything that tends to come from China, I don't know. Now, that's not saying that the PS4 would be, or PS4 or 5 is affected by that just yet. But there is a lot of gaming related stuff that is, because they have basically called off E3 for this year. Right. Which is the big gaming conference. People are still trying to work around that and may still put some stuff out around that time, but that's neither here nor there. So maybe you might want to consider getting a PS4. And there's definitely a lot of stuff that's out there for cheap on PS4. So
right, exactly, just to hold it down.
Exactly. So there's enough out there that'll have you good to go for a good while at this point. Including Spider-Man, which I want to say may still be $20 at this point. So I don't know. So, you know what I'm saying? That's up to you. But anyway, the Easter egg comes in the form of an award that recognizes Norman Osborn for his technological achievements in the field of medical science. Norman received this particular award from the PIM Foundation, which weirdly enough is spelled with 2 M's. I don't know if that was a typo of the article writer or how they have it in game, because I don't think I've ever come across it. And I needed to finish that game, so that's a whole other thing. Or wait, I may have actually passed that point, actually, but I don't remember that. Anyway, it features the signature from Henry Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man and founder of the Pym particles. Like Norman likely created these medical innovations to try to find a cure for Harry, who suffers from a terminal illness in the game storyline. Spoiler alert. Not really much of a spoiler, but yeah. So, yeah, that was the thing that was in the game. I'm kind of surprised that it's just being found out now, but at the same time, there's the game's got a lot in it, so you could, and I feel like that's kind of one of the ones you kind of get shuffled into. So, and there's a lot of Easter eggs in there also, but that's not hidden. Play that game. Next up.
All right, so I guess we're sort of into solicitation mode. The ages-old Kree-Skrull War has given way to an alliance between the ancient enemies, now on a collision course with Earth. But how did it come to this? While there have been clues in the lead-up to Empire, Marvel's upcoming summer event in which the Kree and Skrull team up, writer Robbie Thompson and artist Mattia Diula and Javier Rodriguez will set the stage with Road to Empire Kree-Skrull War, a one-shot setting the stage for Empire. Along the way, Thompson's bringing back the What? The Warners. Not Yakko, Wacko, and Doc.
I'm glad you said that.
I stopped. I did a double take when I read that. I had to lean in a little bit to make sure I wasn't misreading it. The family of Skrull agents at the heart of his Meet the Skrulls limited series to show the history of the conflict from the perspective of the Skrull Empire and to add in a few twists along the way.
Yeah, I remember that came out last year, that Meet the Skrulls, or I think it started coming out last week. I can't remember if it bled over into this year, but yeah, I remember starting to read it, and I think I fell off because probably there was a whole bunch of books. But it was basically a family, quote unquote, a family of Skrulls that was hiding out for, whatever other reason, and the inner turmoil they're in. So they're bringing them back for this, and 1-800-588 something Empire.
Oh no.
Because every time I see Empire, I have that commercial, which weirdly enough plays down here for some strange reason, still shows up. Anyway, all hail Hulkling in latest Empire propaganda. Whereas previous Empire teasers were about whom Kree-Skrull Empire was against, this later John Tyler Christopher propaganda piece is about who to support. Emperor Hulkling. Or that is Dorek the Eighth, King of Space, and he is known the Kree-Skrull Alliance behind him. That was a slight typo in this article, but hey, it was okay. The return of the Celestial Messiah to the blue area of the moon sets off a new chapter in the Kree-Skrull War. Only this time, it's a Kree-Skrull Alliance aimed directly at Earth. And the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and more of Earth's heroes stand in the way. And actually, I misread that as, when I first read this, as Celestial Madonna, which I was thinking, okay, bring back Mantis, just don't screw up like the movie did. But that's not that. Anyway, look for more Empire in the coming weeks here, blah, 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 and the April 15th is when Empire starts. So not too much longer, just a whole nother month. Next.
Let's see. Marvel Shang-Chi back and redesigned for new series. Is that the story we're on now?
That is.
A new Shang-Chi limited series will debut this June. MacArthur Genius Grant winner Jean Luen Yang, who wrote, I believe, American Born Chinese,
yes,
will write this 5-issue series, teaming with artists DK Ruan and Philip Tan, with a cover and redesigned costume by Jim Chung. Good!
Exactly. Folks, we've said this before, we'll say it again. Hey, you know what? Let the folks who have more experience in that kind of stuff write the certain characters. That's all I'm saying. So, now, I don't know about you. I kind of like the last redesign that Shang-Chi's had, with his Avengers run, even up until now.
Red jumpsuit?
Right.
Yeah, I didn't mind. It was good.
Yeah, so I didn't think that...
inspired by Bruce Lee's yellow jumpsuit, but
exactly. So a little partial to that being the case. So I didn't think they actually necessarily needed a redesign. But right. If it is the same one that is on this cover, which if you're watching the video you can see, it's not a bad look. So
cool.
Yeah. But yeah, look forward to that in February 12th, 2020. Oh wait, that's the movie. The June debut date is almost certainly timed for a new collection of story to be in stores for the anticipated February 12th, 2021 opening of Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings, that is hopefully not being waylaid by a certain virus we just talked about. Yeah, there's so wait. So I'm assuming that's this June. Because there's no exact... Oh, yeah, it does say this June. So, stupid me. So there you go. Look out for that. Next up, Steve Orlando makes Marvel debut with Doctor Doom, Scarlet Witch, and the Darkhold. To which I was like, I didn't know Steve Orlando had not done any Marvel work previously to this. But former DC exclusive writer Steve Orlando has quickly spread his wings as he'll be making his Marvel debut in June with Darkhold Alpha #1. First announced at Marvel.com, Darkhold Alpha by Orlando and artist Cian Tormey will once again open the magical Marvel tome of the Darkhold. So, look forward to that. Next up.
All right. Spoiler alert. I haven't read this yet. I don't know about you.
Nope.
But Iron Man 2020 has revealed what those shoulder gears do that are like shoulder pads for him, and it's oddly intimate. So I'm not going to read the story, but apparently they did reveal this in Iron Man 2020 #3.
Yes. Maybe he's one of the fabled Gears of War of video game. No, he's not. Next up. Star Wars reveals the bloody origin of Kylo Ren's lightsaber, and that is from Star Wars: The Rise of Kylo Ren #4, which came out this week, by the way. And I hadn't read any of that, so basically we get the origin of the whole broadsword, the whole which I'm not going to read through because I hadn't read it yet. So there you go. Next,
Grant Imahara of what was the show that he was on? Mythbusters. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Formerly of Mythbusters, created a Baby Yoda animatronic figure that is highly animated. I saw little bits of the video that he posted, and it's remarkable work.
Yes. If you're watching the video, you can see the video that just played that came off of his Instagram of him trying to feed it a chicken nugget, which now I'm hungry. But yeah, it's pretty articulate. That's impressive work. It's not last. I'm sorry. Disney sets opening date for Avengers Campus, reveals more details about California Adventures, Marvel themed attractions. So yeah, the famed Disney, the Adventures Campus that's going to be, opening, in California. They got a layout for and all that kind of good mess. And I think there was even another video where they had showing Spider-Man doing some stunt work, the quote-unquote Spider-Man doing some stunt work there. So cool. But you can check out the article as to what's all going to be there. It's a lot of stuff, it looks like. So next up.
All right, not quite last. LA's WonderCon has been postponed indefinitely due to coronavirus concerns with COVID-19. It was originally scheduled relatively soon for April 10th through 12th. There has been no word yet about any of the other major Comic-Cons, as we mentioned earlier. So we will keep everyone informed based on what we hear.
Yep. And I know I was seeing some chatter on Twitter, and I'm thinking you're probably going to get into it, I would imagine, after this. Was it Emerald City? There was a couple of cons that I saw. People said that they were kind of making, that they were talking about. Actually, let me real quick. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. It's okay.
Let's see. Planet Comic-Con Kansas City put out a statement about their con. Let's see, that's E3. We saw WonderCon, but there's a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to go through it now because that would take a little bit more time than we need to. But rest assured, we will probably revisit this next week as
time goes by, right?
Mm-hmm. And that, folks, is that for the news section. You want to do another ad read before toy section?
Sure.
Or you want to wait till you want to do toy section first? Actually,
no, we'll just do toy section first. All right,
cool.
So,
let me switch up the. Boop. There we go.
And you have two, right?
I do have one. Yeah.
All right. So I picked up a few things. Coincidentally, what was it? Last week or the week before, we did Toy Fair news, and there is a new Storm figure coming out based on her first appearance look, which lasted forever. I was able to pick up the most recent Storm figure, which is based off of a combination of the 90s look and the animated series look. That is this kind of throwback black/silver costume that Storm had in the 90s on this particular card back. I located this at a GameStop of all places. But I know that, GameStops do carry Marvel Legends, and I was very fortunate to pick this up, so very glad to do that. I also picked up this last weekend in my travels a discounted And I'm not looking to pick up every figure to build a figure from this wave, but I did pick up the movie Shuri from the second Black Panther wave. So I'm glad to be able to put together the movie cast of from Black Panther minus M'Baku. I do need to get that second Black Panther wave. Actually, no. Come to think of it, this was the event. This was the. I want to say this was one of the Endgame waves. Yeah, this was one of the Endgame waves, because this is where War Machine, the Build-A-Figure Hulk, and Rescue. This was one of the Endgame waves where this was issued. So I still do have to backtrack and get the second Black Panther wave so I can build an M'Baku.
Cool. Yeah, I think I have that one.
Oh, this particular Shuri?
Yeah, I think so. I know I have at least one of them. I can't remember if I have just that one or I have both of them. I don't remember. I want to say I picked up both of them.
When you say both of them, you mean the one that came with Claw?
Right.
Okay. I do have the one that came with Claw.
Yeah. So cool.
That was the comic version.
Yeah. Is that it for you?
Yeah, that's it. Just
right.
two. A lot.
I mean, hey, that's stuff. It's good stuff, though.
I was about to say it's not a lot when you think about when I crack open a box of 5 or 6 figures, right?
Yeah, but still, I'm kind of jealous because I do want that Storm, and I know I've seen it. I've seen that whole wave list. That whole wave has gone up in price,
right?
And I believe that particular version was not in that because it's the white suit one, from the 90s series, not the black suit one. So I still haven't tracked down that one yet, but it's just because I'm not gonna be able to get it right now anyway. So so mine real quick is I had been talking about this game for a minute, and hopefully one of these days I will get to crack it open and play it. Marvel Champions, the living card game, not unlike the living. Wait a minute, see, come on, find it. Well.
It's like finding part of it.
Yeah, because the webcam is trying to say, okay, I got fine focusing on, so I can't,
Right. So it's focusing in on Spidey, but not on the title.
Basically, it's like I'm looking for your face, not this thing you got in front of me. But basically, here you go. So yeah, this is a card game that has come out from Fantasy Flight Games. So basically, it's a cooperative game where you play. Well, it's 1 to 4 players, so you can play by yourself if you want to, or you can play with up to 4 other people playing various heroes. And you have a scenario where you're basically trying to take down the bad guy, and the bad guy gets to do some stuff while you're coordinating with your team to try to take them down. There is some pretty good but some pretty good gameplay videos out there. On how to play this, and like I said, hopefully I will be able to get either a good crew together or play it at some point somewhere where I could check that out. So I am a fan of card games also, so that should be no surprise to that many people at this point. And that's it for me.
Alrighty.
So now we want to hit another ad read.
Yeah, our last ad read of the night is something that I think people who are sheltering in place should take advantage of, and that is Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your taste and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. Doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through CSPN. Do it today. The reason why I hit that is because I had something in mind. I just wanted to add that, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot catch COVID-19 by drinking Corona. Please don't put Corona out of business, or else what would Dom Toretto be drinking in the movies?
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because yes, I remember seeing that article, and I've also, matter of fact, came across the Snopes article that was debunking most of that earlier today, because I wanted to bring it. I was bringing it up for a reason in a discussion. But yeah, regardless of whether that whole thing was true, and I have no, let's phrase it, even if it wasn't true, in this day and age, with America particularly being the way it is, it's not that hard to believe that someone actually would believe that.
Right.
So yeah, what he said, but also people, come on, really.
Seriously, I mean, I feel like going to get a case of Corona just to get the edge off, man.
My wife was actually talking about that like yesterday too. I was like, you are so silly, but at the same time, you know what? You about right. Like like the news has been coming hot and heavy, and people are stocking up left crazily for, not crazily, but just a lot for, what's going on. And hey, you know what? If you have access to some alcohol, folks, and you're not obsessive with it, do what you got to do.
Yep.
And with that, we are at the end of another fine episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. We made it. Yay. And without that many technical issues outside of what happened prior to the show. But hey, ironing it out as it go, folks. And with that, you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter at that. You can also find me at News Nerds Need and CB Caps on Instagram. You can find Agent 70 on Twitters and the Instagrams like that. PC_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com and his umbrella sites therein. And I forgot earlier that he is on Byte as comic reviews, no vowels. And the Osiris status is Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, The Click Nation on Twitter, theclicknation.com, that's DKLIQNATION, CB Cron on Twitter, that is the Comic Book Chronicles account on Twitter, and also Comic Book Resources, CBR.com. You can go check him out over there where he's writing his face off. You can find this here program on the Cold Slither Podcast Network, CSPN.US.
Do it today.
You can also find this at your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, and the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Folks, wash your hands. I cannot stress this enough. Keep your, if you're sick, I understand it's hard out there. You gotta have to work and get some money. But if you're sick, stay home. Stay home. So, none of this can be stressed on that. Like, there are people who are saying that people are overreacting about this coronavirus. And in some cases they are, and there are people that are taking advantage of people's, let's say, naivete.
Or vulnerabilities.
Yes, around this stuff. And I won't get into a whole thing on that, but yeah, it's ridiculous out there. But also, give it the seriousness that it actually does deserve, because let's face it, as I had to say earlier to someone, it's because people weren't taking it serious as to why it's spreading so much. So,
right.
Yeah. And on that note, we will be back. Same time, same channel, same thing all next week, 9:30-ish p.m. on the Click Nation's YouTube channel. I think we pretty much got a lock on our recording situation at this point, so hopefully that will continue to stay smooth. But yeah, movie protocol is far from being in effect, and somewhat.
Oh my gosh!
Somewhat due to, although Bloodshot did come out this week, but neither one of us were,
Right, we weren't going to cancel the show to watch Bloodshot.
Yeah, it was not that high on our priority. I am curious about it, but not that much.
Right.
So, but one of these days we'll probably say, hey, yeah, one of us saw it, and we'll get back with you on that. I feel like probably Dirt will probably be the one to be like, yeah, I saw it. But I don't know. I don't even know if his interest is that far, but we'll see coming forward. That being said, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Good evening,
line.
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that